Hi everyone, I have something to read to you. I didn't write it though, so I can't take any credit, although I would very much like to, because as I was reading it, I knew that it was going to go down in history as a defining treatise on our current situation. Read with the permission of the author, Cindy Niles, I don't think I can stick my neck out with a much more lofty introduction than that, so without further ado, this much is known. The Great Reset hinges upon a specific set of beliefs, explicit or implicit ideological and actionable adherence to the following: pandemics and prevention of contagion, vaccines and preventative treatment, climate change and carbon reduction, the left-right polarizing divide, abolition of the separate private and public spheres and replacement by public-private partnerships, P3s, dissolution of nation states, digital transformation and artificial intelligence control of the traditional three estates, separate powers of government, revamped constitutions and reimagined faith systems that advance collectivism and homogeny. So, acceptance of these problems and their predetermined solutions are the glaring setup for us to walk straight into the digital gulag and sit down to a meal of crispy cockroaches with a side serving of greens cultivated without sunlight. These shady traps are so well concealed by confusion and distraction that starting at the end and working backwards is about the only way to see past the smoke and mirrors. Consider the following an exercise in reverse engineering. Agenda 2030, the big trap, removing government, rewriting constitutions. The conclusion envisaged by the World Economic Forum, the United Nations and their affiliates is global governance without a visible government. We are deviously being promised an equitable, inclusive, diverse, sustainable and level playing field. What's actually happening is the forced transition into the fourth industrial revolution, better understood as comprehensive automation of physical labor, synthetic or artificial substitution of anything you can imagine, more political and economic globalization, i.e. interdependence, fewer physical interactions, less human input, less emphasis on real experience, ever more immersion into virtual reality, no private property, and no free will. So logistics. Since humans are characterized as inherently biased, greedy, over-consuming, and fallible, artificial intelligence, a fancy name for algorithmic code, note well, it is written by humans, is to determine the distribution of energy, food, shelter, clothing, travel miles, medical care, law enforcement, justice, information, jobs, and education. Material goods apportioned in the same vein will be for temporary use only. Recycling, reusing, and upcycling will establish a circular economy respectful to nature. To this end, it is anticipated that planned obsolescence will be removed from the core tenets of modern manufacturing practice. Redefined as privileges, these entitlements will be dispensed on the grounds of predictive modeling based on precision metrics. What this means in English is that algorithms which determine human pathways will be coded to predict outcomes. So real-world instructions will be based on computational forecasts. Things that never happen will be the deciding factors of the opportunities and barriers in our lives. This is the reason for the omniscient and omnipresent surveillance above and below the skin, according to Yuval Harari, who rationalizes that the more intelligence gathered, the more accurate the predictions will be. Furthermore, the better safe than sorry precautionary principle will be strictly adhered to in the name of security. Zero tolerance to risk will be built into the program. If an individual is gauged to have a predilection or predisposition of sorts that isn't favorable to predetermined outcomes, that individual will be shielded from temptation or participation. For example, I have the propensity to forsake the emotional comforts of others by speaking my mind to those who would avoid, with fervor, opinions contrary to the official narrative. Thus, geofencing will very likely be employed to keep me from attending community town hall exercising the new version of political representation, deliberative democracy or a citizen's jury. That is the abridged version of the logistical matters, which are aimed at our logical brain, the left cerebral hemisphere. To persuade the right hemisphere, the seat presided over by our humanity, a world alliance is being proposed. We are to align ourselves with others and the earth. In this endeavor, our mind's eye is being asked to imagine the countryside becoming a pristine environment via the relocation of people, industry, and farming. On the other hand, cities are being transformed into bundles of discrete, self-contained neighborhoods, tightly regulated to prevent crime and disease. These safe spaces are promised to nurture a cohesive melding and blending of cultures, ethnicities, genders, and religions. These 20-minute communities will, ostensibly, engender solidarity, oneness with each other and nature. To ensure each resident performs their responsibilities to the collective and receives their equitable allotment, a spin-off of communism, AI will be deployed as arbiter. Privacy framework is a red herring, bait and switch operation. Lax laws about privacy and its breaches, see cyber polygon, will be crafted and then magnified in the media. Scathing critique from major news publications calling for statutory regulation of the metaverse will garner popular support, resulting in a global constitution for the global virtual space. Moreover, a license to gain entry into the online realm will be set in global law. To put into context in real-world terms, digital twinning one's cyber identity will come before their real flesh and blood person. If the electronic twin isn't given a green light by AI, the person will be locked out in physicality. It's already demonstrated with vaccine certificates. Notably, global citizens will not have access to the internet without their biometric ID being tracked and logged. All activity on and offline is building a data repository on a personal blockchain and will travel with the person as metadata accessible to the Internet of Things and smart cities. Random people's phones, wearables, devices and appliances, smart streetlights and poles, new vehicles, etc., all have sensors, receivers and transmitters that communicate with our unique data bundle in real time. The purpose of it is to coordinate, manage and profit off of real people in real life, in settled areas, as well as in nature, i.e. smart beaches and smart forests. However, commodification isn't limited to human capital. Nature is another dynamic, eternal spring of data. Natural processes like rain, sunshine, wind, the flow of a river, tidal ebbing, animal migration, gaseous exchange, to name only a few, can be measured and thus managed and therefore traded on the stock market. There will not be a square inch of earth or life not included in inclusive capitalism. Not people, not ecosystems, not soil, not flora or fauna will evade the cybernetic replica of Earth, nor its intervention and monetization in the burgeoning data economy. How? The platform of e-health is the mechanism by which everyone will be ensnared into the system from womb to tomb. Co-opted by the medical mafia are the entry and exit points of life. Consider it as you would a traveler navigating port entry and passport control in a foreign country. Now see that face control, biometric facial recognition technology, will be your key to life. Every breath between your first and last will be accounted for with bio-nanotech. When the full potential of biometric surveillance is successfully realized and scaled to include the microcosm of cellular function, thought control will not be perceptible to the object. An outrageous proposal by transhumanists employed by the WEF, but the definition of literal cyborgs, governed beings nonetheless. Back to the immediate future, all public and private services, goods, utilities, products, transactions, and exchanges are being overlaid with cyberlocks that only digital identification can conditionally open. The computational lock is by default set to deny. The privilege, not right, to access life's most mundane of interactions is granted upon receipt of an acceptable digital aggregate or footprint or social credit rating. Postscript. This is the future that has been in the works for many decades. It's not a theory, it's a Reader's Digest of the agenda, with many key terms and phrases that are easily searched and verified by authoritative sources, such as governmental websites. End quote. This is where we are. This is what's happening. This is what, in the name of humanity, we are fighting to prevent. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you. I love you. Bye.